Call this meeting to order. It is 6:01 p.m. This is our regular council meeting on July 28th, 2022, and I would like to call, first establish a quorum, and full council is here, and I am asking Brad Elrod, our city attorney, to do our invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
If you'll pray with me. Dear Lord, we are just thankful for another day that we haven't been promised, but a day to gather here with neighbors, with friends, as we seek to do your will in this city, Lord. Just be with us, guide us, give us safe travels home, but more importantly, give us discernment as we do the work for the citizens of this city. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'm kind of waiting for CD to get back to see if there were any, was the agenda not numbered?
Yes.
It is numbered. Well, mine isn't. Okay. Oh, here, I got one.
Kathy, hold on for just a minute.
Excuse me?
Hold on for just a minute.
Excuse. Okay, are we having some technical difficulties? What's going on? Do you want me to wait?
He's not checking for every, right now, it says it's not receiving enough video and it's maintaining smooth screen, so it's not live right now.
Oh, okay. We can wait for just a little bit and see if we can handle the problem. I guess we're not live streaming and we really want to, so let's recess for just a little bit. I turned that one down to 71. Is that, you can turn it down further.
62 works good.
It's hot flashes. How, can you tell if we're streaming or?
The error message says YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. So it might be folks see part of it and then it does the.
Okay, so we can just go ahead and go.
Yeah.
All right. No one signed up for communications from the audience, and I assume that we have not received anything via internet, right? Okay. I'm moving on to the consent agenda. Is there anyone interested in removing anything from the consent agenda? Okay. If not, do I hear if there being nothing to remove, the consent agenda is therefore adopted. On to the mayor's report, which I haven't got a whole lot to report today, except that I think everyone's aware that MJ has passed. MJ McNeil passed away. I don't know exactly what day it was, but our community has lost a huge asset, a huge, she was such a sweet soul and did so much for our community. And then also Kenny Evans passed away, and Kenny was for, I don't know how long, he was in the fire department, so he served our community in that capacity, and the Evans family was here forever, I think since the beginning of Ivanhoe. So we lost 2 dear people in a very short period of time. And so we are in mourning over that loss. I was not able to be at either one of those. I went to a cruise last week and came home with COVID. And I want everybody to know that I consulted with my doctor. I have not had any symptoms for the past couple days, and so I went ahead and tested this morning. I tested negative, otherwise I would not be here. And so I made sure with my doctor that I was not contagious. I would not expose anybody needlessly. I'm not that unconscious. But so I'm totally over it, and thank God it wasn't a bad case. So moving along, I don't think there's much else on my report. We went to a DebtCog meeting today, and then after that there was a GLO, what they call a kickoff meeting about the money that's coming in through DebtCog. There was $161 million that is allotted to DebtCog for Harvey remediation, right? We have our grant administrator here this evening. Judy Langford is here. We're used to dealing with Jill. You've all met Jill, but Judy is actually Judy Langford. It's Langford and Associates. So she's the one with the name on the door. And she was gracious enough to come, and she was at the meeting this afternoon, and so I think it was really important. Dawn Pilcher was there, our LJA engineer, and so she and Dawn were able to make communication or make contact after the meeting and talk about what needed to be done to submit our project for the $1,933,000 that Ivanhoe has been allotted. That's what this meeting was about today. That's why they had the kickoff meeting to tell us how to do stuff. And after that meeting, Skip attended the meeting and Tommy attended the meeting. And just now Skip said, well, that's 3 hours I'll never regain. And what we got out of that meeting was, I kept thinking, thank God we have grant administrators and engineers that understand all this stuff, because it was like totally Greek. The importance of being there and showing up at these meetings is, getting to know the people, making the connections, and it's really valuable. It's really important. But yeah, it does get boring for us. I mean, for them, it's probably really valuable information, but for us, it's like, oh my God. Anyway. Moving right along, consider for discussion action Supervisor of Dams report. Rusty, are you here? I know he's here because I talked to him a while ago. And he's out of camera. So, yeah, the camera can't see you. Is it turned on?
He's on.
Yeah, okay.
Mayor, City Council, nothing going on. Lack of rain is a big deal, and you all know that. How about now? Yeah. The only thing really that'll wind up getting considered if this drought continues is shutting down motorboat traffic and jet skis and things with motors on Shore Main to prevent the washing out of the stuff along the dam and other places, people's property and stuff. But that's the only thing really going on.
You said that Galahad is maintaining its level.
Yeah, Galahad was down an inch last month, and it's down an inch now, and so it hasn't changed.
And it's not going over the weir.
Nope.
Did you notice I used that word?
No, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I had to use it a long time ago.
Okay.
So I'm passing it up. There's really nothing else, unless you have questions. And the thing I put in the write-up, I did send one out a couple hours ago because I walked them down this morning. My deal with the shutting down the motor traffic we're not at that point yet. I think we need to go down a little more. We can afford to go down a little more before we start doing any real damage, in my opinion. If we get to that point, then consult with Marion and that group. But other than that, that's all.
We appreciate you being on top of it. Will, did you have anything to add to that since you're the liaison?
Yeah, the bulkhead on Tristan Dam is going to need replacing. It's in dire straits. We got like 60 feet that we're going to have to.
That's the portion that wasn't done before.
Wasn't done before, and it's deteriorating quickly. And then I want to give thanks to David Marshall. While the lake is down, we took this opportunity to get the Stilling Basin cleaned up and cleaned out. And so it was a win-win for all of us. We got it cleaned, didn't have to lower the lake, so it was just a good opportunity to get it done. And Chance Construction took 5 days to do it before, and it's pretty costly. And we did it. David's guys did it for $1,368 in probably 2.5 days. So it was really a savings for us. They did an excellent job.
Our
on that.
cost, that was our cost.
That was our cost.
Yeah, listen, having our own equipment makes the world of difference, and that's great. I saw that it was nice and clean.
It was nice and clean, and then we have mowed the dams, and we have sprayed herbicide on Tristan, take care of those growth that's coming up, so that we can maintain all of that, so they're all nice and clean, and should last us for a little while.
Well, and this is not the agenda item right now, but I did put out to, okay.
This one's off.
Is it that one? No? Is it mine? Is it mine, CD? But I did put a request out for everybody to give me input on budget, and I haven't heard from anybody yet, so.
You've been gone. You've been gone.
Yeah, you've been gone. Never mind.
I've been gone.
You're gonna be busy.
Yeah. We're diving deep into the budget thing right now, so I need to hear from everybody as far as budget, and so, Will, that's a good point. We need to look at that. Okay. For next fiscal year.
Kathy, if you don't mind, I've got a couple questions in the budget. That's why I haven't sent it to you. I see line items where we put stuff in there for budget, but nothing's been taken out, and then we didn't put anything for budget, and
Okay,
stuff's been taken
John.
out. I can't, I need questions answered before I can work on a budget.
Okay, that's not what we're talking about right now. It's like I told, only reason I brought that up was because Will mentioned the need for that.
Okay,
And later on, when we get the financial report, and we're going to be talking about that.
okay.
Listen, I'll tell you, well, we're kind of off subject.
No problem.
I'm making a note. Okay. Next is our municipal court activity. Judge Rader, would you like to make your report?
Is this on?
This is obviously mine.
I guess so. Hello? Good here? It looks like it's on.
So is it mine?
Yeah.
Is it my mic?
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Skip. Earlier this month, Jackie and I went to Georgetown. We attended a seminar it was 12 hours on ordinances. And it was, actually, it's a program that is called C3, Councils, Courts, and Cities. And it's kind of geared for municipal courts and city council, mayors, to kind of learn how the municipal court works in conjunction with the city. And so next time one of these comes along, I would like maybe somebody from city council or the mayor to go to it. But this was good. This ordinance was really good. And I mean, it was 12 hours, so it was quite a
Who
bit.
put that on?
It was the Texas Municipal Courts,
Oh,
Court, what's that called? TMCEC,
okay.
Texas Municipal Court Education Center. And so That was the only subject, was ordinances and different, they had animals, dangerous animals. We did, what were some of the other things, Jackie? Oh, signs. Very confusing, though. And it was mainly for bigger cities, how they're controlling the big billboards and stuff, and, yeah. But one thing that I did take out of that, which was good, is we are doing what the steps we're supposed to take. And that's, Jackie sends out a notice, a little card, courtesy card, to come in, you're out of compliance with an ordinance. If they don't answer that, she sends a certified letter. If that doesn't get any result, then it'll come to me. And we have been seeing people, once they're getting a summons to come to court, they do come in, and, our main thing is compliance. And we want to comply, not fine everybody that they can't even afford to pay it. We're finding some people could be handicapped, elderly, they're having a hard time doing stuff, and a lot of the bigger cities had, on their website, they had resources, like maybe Habitat for Humanity or Catholic Charities or something, there people could go and they could get help, trying to meet these ordinances. So it would be nice if we could get maybe some kind of a committee, or where we could go out and find maybe even people in the community that would be willing to help. I know John did the Methodist Church did a ramp for somebody.
Yes.
And so if we might be able to look into that, where we could have some resources to help people clean up their properties. Another thing was, somebody asked, what if somebody wants to just come in and pay for it, pay the fine? Well, that doesn't really get stuff done. And then if they don't comply, even after paying, then you can fine them again, and it can increase each time. But apparently, we have to have some type of section in the penalty section with that in it, that you could be fined a second, third time, and it could go up each time. And another thing they talked about was the ordinances really need to be reviewed on maybe every 5 years or whatever, for just to be updated and to make sure that the wordings make sense. And I think Planning and Zoning has been doing a few of them and working with Brad. So I don't know if there might be a separate committee that maybe could start going through the ordinances, looking at each one of them. Because we do find sometimes they're not clear. They're kind of fuzzy when we, so it's kind of hard to enforce it if it's not clear. So, that's about what I got out of that. So my financial report, getting to that, in June, we collected $350. The city kept $285, and we sent $64 to the state.
Can you tell which one it is? No, she's real close to that speaker. It's not usually where that mic is.
Okay. So that's all. Any questions about ordinances or anything? Jackie might speak a little bit more about it, what we got out of it in her report.
Okay.
all in all, I think we're doing, people are coming in. And Jackie's been talking to them what they need to do, been giving them some time to take care of it, and I think we're getting some good results.
You're doing an awesome job, Jackie. You know, with the idea with the postcards to start out with,
Yes.
it was a phenomenal idea. It's a way to get people's attention, and not in a bad way. Just
Yeah.
you know.
And they did, in this, they did stress that coming to the court is the last
Resort.
I mean, they rather resolve it without court intervention, so.
Right. Makes sense. Well, that sounds like it was a very valuable
Uh-huh, it was good.
training. Good.
Right,
Thank you, Kathy. Report monthly code enforcement activity. Jackie, you get to go up next. Yeah, you might as well. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, read both of them.
Okay, this is the Marshal's report from Terry Riley, and it looks like for last month they had over 100 calls for service, 28 calls from the Sheriff's Office Dispatch. Bob, which is number 506, had 34 service calls, 1 warrant arrest, 1 CTW, and 20 citations. Steve was badge number 503. Was gone for 3 weeks for the military army training that he has every year, and he had around 22 calls. And then Terry Riley, which is badge number 501, had around 45 calls for service. Is there any questions on any of that? I do know Bob and Steve have been very active on trying to get some of these people that's repeat offenders, trying to get them in line, trying to get, you know, if they're causing issues, trying to see what we can do to resolve it. So, but they've all been doing a really good job, so. Okay, on the code enforcement, as Ms. Rader had said that we had attended the training. The biggest thing that I got out of the training was that the definitions is what makes or breaks any ordinance. If you don't have the definitions, like the wording that's in the ordinance, if it's not defined, that it can make it where it's extremely hard to enforce, because if the definitions aren't there, it gives it no backbone, because people don't understand what it's talking about. So I do know that we have a huge Hispanic population here, and some of the wording, just like habitation, that they don't understand that habitation means, like, if you're staying there, if you're spending the night, spending the weekend, whatever, that's considered you habitating in that area. Because as far as they're concerned, doesn't matter what's on the property. They live in Houston, or they live in down south, and I can't even think of one of the towns down south right now. But they don't think that they're habitating when they're staying in like a portable building here, because their main address is in another city. So that's been a big deal about explaining things to different people that's come in, and we're starting to get to the bottom of some of the code violations, and it's truly because they just don't understand what it's saying. So actually, it wasn't even an hour ago, I had a family come in, and I went over everything with them, and that's another thing that it's starting to get out, that we're willing to discuss it with them. If they come in, call, whatever, I can try to explain it better, and making sure that it's, whether it be a family member or whoever, Miss Kathy speaks Spanish, but getting it translated so they truly understand. And they're willing to actually step up and get whatever taken care of, because of course they don't want us bugging them as much as we don't want them bugging us about something stupid. So now that they're starting to understand what it is, they're actually getting the problem solved, getting them fixed, different things like that. So I know this month that technically we've only closed 10 cases this month. But I know that we have 20 cases right now that the people have actually come in. We've explained it to them. We're actually working with them. And they should be closed very, very shortly. They've got like half of it done, but not all of it done. So we're not closing it out until it's completely done. So that's been a big thing. We've also had, I had down 27 cases that a lot of them were older cases that we've been trying to get them caught up, and it's stuff that we hadn't even touched those at this point because we had so many others, but we're starting to get a handle on the ones that we have and getting a plan for them. So we started including the new 27 that we hadn't sent anything to them. So we had multiple cards go out, multiple certified letters go out this month, and getting results every day. We got people calling or coming in about their cards or whatever they've received. So I think we're making big progress. I don't know if you guys are actually seeing it as you're driving around or not, but I think we are making progress. So.
Absolutely. Doing
Any
a great
questions?
Takes time. Good job.
job. Great job. Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
Public Works Department, Mr. Marshall.
Good evening, one and all. As you know, the heat has been relentless, so we at Public Works are only charging $1.25 for 15 minutes to come jump into our new ice machine. We've had a few takers, but that time we weren't really serious. No, it didn't fit too well. Thank you. I can't thank y'all enough. Thing is pumping out 92 pounds a day with a maximum of 132. It's great. It's great. It's inside. We've completely redone the area, filters, the whole 9 yards. So it's rocking and rolling. We appreciate it greatly. Couldn't come at a better time. I mean, it's hot out there. The guys are troopers. They're out there every day. I'm on them every day to slow down, get in the shade. Somebody wants to complain, call me. We'll talk about it. But it's really, really bad for them out there. They're going along well. We're kind of clicking along where we have been, actually a little better. We have 22 work orders on the board, and that's it. We're finally getting to that where we've caught up, and we're beginning to make a little headway, a little gain. You're welcome. Does that take care of you? Okay, good deal. New system, so we're able to just look at the board, see what we've got. Right now, we've got 7 culvert installs, 6 general maintenance ideas, grading, 7 different roads, and 2 different locations for ditch work. So at any given time, call, I can tell you what we've got, where it's at, and where we're at on it. It's just a little bit more tweaking day by day till we get it exactly like we need it. The good thing now is we've got it set up pretty well to where if I'm not there, whether I'm here, sick, whatever, vacation, I do get vacation done. The guys can come in, go right to the folders they need. It's in order. They can take it. They can move with it, run with it. We don't really lose a lot of steam. So that's working out pretty well. That's the good news. That's the good news. We did get a rate increase today, CD. I don't know if they let you know on the road base. We are now paying $3 more a ton. But this is the base material itself increase and the fuel expenditure to get it here. $3 doesn't sound like a whole lot per ton. Today we got kind of an average load. It would normally run us, let's see, we got 121 tons today. 4 trucks. Normally that would have been $4,831 and some odd cents. But with the new rate increase, it's now $5,000 $196 and some odd cents. Difference of about $365. I don't know what to do. We need it, and it's going to continue to go up whether we get it from the vendor we are now or someone else. I am looking, but these guys are still the best game in town as far as price. I think it's because of the volume that they deal in. So until we get further word, we'll hopefully stick with them for a while. The ash material that you've heard me talk about so much, we're still in it. I've had several contacts. The production manager is thrilled, wants to get us going. Said we can run 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. We can have it all if we want to. However, their issue is now, since we don't have the ability to load ourselves, they have to make time in their schedule for one of their personnel to be there on that loader to get us loaded. Yes, the thought crossed my mind, can we rent a loader for a week? Yes, we could. I'd like to give it a little more time before we get that desperate, I think. You're probably looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of $600 to $800 for a week's rental on one of those big loaders. We can wait them out, their loader, and about 2 bucketfuls. Our dump truck is overflowing, so it goes really fast. And they're working on it, and they understand, so we're kind of joined at the hips on this thing. We both want it to work. We have a specific area that we're going to work with here. I think one of the sandiest roads we've got, and we're going to see if we can stabilize that to make it work like we should. The other thing, CD and I have been kind of going back and forth. I'm trying to find an absolute yes or no on this particular sign that we've all seen here at the end of the dams. This is really kind of goofy wording. I've heard everything from the DPS that you can't use that. The other one I've heard is, well, that's simple. Doesn't matter if you have one axle or several tandem axles. It's still 24,000 pounds. But like they also said, it's very difficult to enforce the way that it's written. It can mean so many different things. So I'm working with them, doing. That was from the blueprints. From Tristan or Galahad? Galahad. Both. Okay. From the engineers. But this was how long ago? Okay. I just want to get something set in stone to where we can get the right sign, get it up there, and make it enforceable. We do have a problem. It's a huge problem of trucks going where they shouldn't be going. So I think that's important that we work on that and get that figured out. I will keep you posted on what I find out. If y'all can come up with something, please throw it in there and we'll rattle it around and come up with something. The other dealing with signs. I know the election is right around the corner. Every time it comes up, we get the same phone calls, usually by the hundreds. This sign's too close to the road. This sign's in my yard. This sign's illegal. This is not in the city right away. Can we put our heads together this year and come up with where they're going? I know CD and I have talked about this. Where is legal? Where is not legal? Do they have to be in the yards? Can they be in the city right away? If so, can they be this far in the city right away, or can they be this far? It's amazing how picky people can get when it comes to these political signs. But I would like to have something kind of said and done before it gets started, because unfortunately, my team is usually the ones that's out there caught in the middle of these battles sometimes. So just food for thought.
The other thing,
The other thing
and the last thing,
and the last thing
that
that I would like to respectfully request
that
that
City Council
take another look
at
at our
handbook
policies
regarding
regarding PTO time.
is a great thing.
We're very thankful for it,
But I personally think
there's one small section that in there that is really unfair to the city employees. Briefly,
we want them to take all their vacation by
September 30th,
because we don't
carry it over,
but come
but come
October 1,
October 1,
they have 0 hours.
they have 0 hours.
They have to accrue
the hours
day by
day by day by day, which our part-time rating, full-time, part-time, whatever it's called, allows them, even if you've been here over 2 weeks,
to gain that
at approximately 14 and a half hours for 1 month or 2 months. I'll have to go back and look. Personally, I just like to see it beginning October 1st. You have your 48 hours, you have your 96 hours, and work it off. Again, I would like to see something like this taken care of, looked at before October 1st, so we could get this out of the way and be on track with this. I don't know if that's executive session or what. I would think that it would be, but
I'll
I'll be happy to give you any input from our end if you need it.
Okay.
Okay?
Any questions?
Any questions? Because that's about the end of me for right now. I'm in enough trouble.
Did the new SIM card work out?
Better,
Better, but we still,
You still have intermittent?
we still drop out. Yeah, no, just not
not as many.
not every 3 minutes.
About every-
It's about every 15 minutes now, but it doesn't drop out as long as it did before. So, yeah, that 5G card or whatever it was does help somewhat.
Still an aggravation, though?
Still an aggravation and still hard to print.
The internet, it was having trouble with the iPad, with intermittent signal, so it would, in the middle of his working, it would just stop. You'd have to start over again. Personally, I do a lot of stuff on the computer, and I find that infuriating.
It can be.
Well, has Mr. IT looked at that? I mean, whatever the problem may be.
The problem is we don't have internet there. He's not trying to use cell signal, but the building attenuates the signal so much that he doesn't have good signal all the time.
So like when you talk to Brandon, huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay? Any more?
Yeah. Be sure and let me know, David, because I thought it was handled.
What's
If
that,
I thought that situation had been handled with the new SIM card. So be sure and let me know.
It's better than what it was, like I said, but it's one of those that kind of started out with a bang, but as time goes on, it's kind of going
Right.
back to the way it was. So.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
appreciate
part
it.
of that is the metal roof and then
The concrete block.
the concrete blocks.
Yeah,
Those are two big signal attenuators.
Yep.
It's a good place to come though for a hurricane if anybody needs a spot.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks, David. Appreciate it. Number 7 is consider for discussion action planning and zoning commission recommendations. Councilman Craven.
Yeah, I will say the P and Z's been working tirelessly on some of these ordinances, and I think what I'm gonna do is turn over to Valerie, to address the council on some updates.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I believe in your packets you have 3 ordinances which are individually listed on the agenda. The first one is 2022-2. They are sign additional exemptions. And this adds language which clarifies which nonprofit and/or charitable organizations serving the citizens of Ivanhoe are exempt from the prohibition of placing temporary ground-mounted signs in the public right-of-way. All other date and size requirements remain unchanged. I have the ordinance here if you need for me to read that. Any more information on that? The only language which changed was in 110.18 signs. A sentence was added saying signs may be placed in the public right-of-way for charitable groups listed in section 151.08C. And then we added C under 151.08, temporary sign permits. And C states, temporary ground-mounted signs for local, community-based, nonprofit, church, and/or charitable groups serving the citizens of Ivanhoe, such as the Ivanhoe Volunteer Fire Department, Ivanhoe Property Owners Improvement Association, Friends of Ivanhoe, Ivanhoe Civic Club, churches, and volunteer-led youth groups advertising activities, sales, and miscellaneous events. So those are the groups which would be exempted from the location prohibition of right-of-way. Everything else stays outside of the right-of-way. We didn't change political signs or garage sale signs, things like that, unless the garage sale is the Friends of Ivanhoe. That's the charitable organization. Questions?
So the civic club sign up front is legal or not?
It is not a ground-mounted sign. The ordinance changes that we made only involve the wire ground-mounted that stick in the ground. That one is portable.
All right. So what about the association sign up front?
That one is not a wire ground-mounted sign.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
Has everyone had a chance to look at this, council? Okay. I would like Brad's opinion. Are we able to just adopt these ordinance changes that are being suggested? What is the procedure here?
Our code does say we require 2 readings unless the council makes an immediate or a finding that immediate need to go ahead and pass it. That language is in this ordinance, so really that's the council's discretion on whether they want to go ahead and proceed at the first reading.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to adopt at least this suggested change? And would it be at first reading or doing? Okay. But we have to have a motion. However you want to do your motions.
Readdressing number 2022-2.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that we have a second reading.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any discussion and questions?
I just want to point out that those organizations listed are temporary sign permits, under temporary sign permits. They do not address permanently mounted signs such as the city sign. These are only temporary sign permits.
All right, so we can consider this the first reading, and it will be on the agenda for the next council meeting. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Next, Valerie, I think you're on to number 9, right?
Yes, ma'am. Number 2022-3, under animal regulations, what this does is removes rabbits from restricted animals kept within the city limits. as pets. Other existing animal species restrictions remain in place, and it stipulates that no more than 5 total domestic animals may be kept as pets. That is already in the ordinance as keeping more than 5 dogs and/or cats shall be considered a commercial endeavor. But we're adding and/or rabbits. And we are adding the sentence, the occupants of each residence may not keep more than a combined total of 5 domestic animals of any species as pets. And we removed the word rabbits from the restrictions.
So you have 10 rabbits?
No. No, you may not. 5. We removed the word rabbits from restrictions, but we put rabbits in the sentence under B, if you're looking at that. The second sentence says, keeping more than 5 dogs and/or cats and/or rabbits shall be considered a commercial endeavor. Rabbits was removed from restricted, but included in the 5 maximum pets.
And who's going to enforce this?
We had you in mind, Will.
Good answer.
So how's it enforced? If you have somebody that's got 7 rabbits and somebody's got 6 dogs, 20 cats,
Somebody would have to
Okay,
report them.
can we have Jackie's comment on this one because she's been involved in this?
That involves code enforcement. Code enforcement follow the same rules where we send them, since they're already in violation, we send them a certified letter at the beginning. If they don't take care of it right away, then they get called in by the judge. They have to explain to the judge why they have more than 5.
Personal consumption.
We do define these as pets. If they're raising them as livestock, we haven't really addressed that.
Ooh. Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve, it's
I make a motion that
2022-3?
we
The
have a
first
second
reading.
reading.
Yeah, but we approve it on the first reading. There will be a second reading. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, that was not clear, was it? Sorry.
I second that.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, Valerie, on to the 2022-4.
Okay, I may have to call up my compadre Jeff Heck to discuss this one. He was actually really involved in that one. Let me let him take over my position, please.
Thank you, Valerie.
Oh, heck.
Oh, heck.
Oh, heck. Give him heck.
Okay. The purpose of, or we were tasked with trying to get a camping ordinance that was enforceable. We've had, camping's been allowed for the longest period of time, but never been able to control which camper trailers are brought in, how long they can stay, where they can be located, et cetera. We've had rules, but nobody can drive around every street in Ivanhoe and look day to day and see what campers have come in, how long they've been there, did they leave under the required 5 days absence, et cetera, et cetera. So we came up with a plan to require permits for all recreational vehicles in Ivanhoe. I know that's not a real popular thing to start, but there's no other way that we can determine, again, when they come in, how long they've been there, to have any type of control over the use and the location of these RVs. So essentially, we started out by defining camping recreational vehicles, defining giving definitions for the various types that are allowed, those being motorhomes, camper trailers, truck-mounted campers, et cetera. We do have 4 definitions that are listed in the ordinance there. Then we proceeded to clarify the various uses that we would allow. We've always assumed that camping was allowed in Ivanhoe, and for a while we said that camping was allowed for up to, temporary camping was allowed for up to 17 days, but then you had to pull the camper out for 5 days and then bring it back, and again, had no way of enforcing this, making sure that somebody was following the rules, and because we already have a good permitting office, we have a system set up for permits, we decided to make, to include this in the role of the permit office. So any camper that comes in, any recreational vehicle described under these definitions, would be required to obtain a permit from the permit office. We have three different periods of time for camping. We have your temporary camping, which again, we previously defined as 17 days with having to be pulled out after 5. Person would come into the permit office prior to their placing their camper on their lot. They would apply for a permit, and again, at the suggestion of Jackie and some others, they would be the ones enforcing it, obviously. But they suggested that we use color-coded permits so that simply a drive-by, you could take a look and see the permit on the camper, determine whether it was there for temporary purposes, or the second condition was, I guess I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Three types of camping. We have the temporary camping. We have the camping that's allowed for home building, which is a 6-month period. And then we have what's called permanent camping, or in this case, we also included storage of campers on a lot. And these would be annual permits. The 6-month being for house building. You're allowed to put a camper on your lot while you have a house under construction, if you've already obtained a permit for that. And then we have our temporary camping, which is the 17 days. Again, you're required to obtain a permit for these various uses. Makes it easier for the code enforcement to drive by and see by the color of the permit what is being used for. We've added certain restrictions as far as the types of vehicles that are allowed in there, how long they can stay, which lots they're allowed to put these things on. Basically, that's it. It's making the camping enforceable is what we're attempting to do here. I could read this whole thing to you. It's rather lengthy. It's 2 or 3 pages, but I assume that you've read it, or if you haven't, maybe you can like to ask me any questions about it. I'd probably do better answering questions than trying to explain the entire ordinance.
So there's 3 different types of temporary campers.
There's 3 types of camping permits.
They're all temporaries.
They're
That's what you said.
They're all renewable. The temporary camping is for 17 days. That's all you can have. Then the camper has to be removed and brought back in. This is for the camping wherever temporary camping is allowed, which is in all the residential districts. Wherever temporary camping is allowed, you can't just come in and put up your camper anymore and say, okay, I'm going to camp here. That's all there is to it. And I promise I'll be gone in 17 days. We have no way of enforcing that. There's no way that we can prove when it got there, when it's been removed.
So I own a piece of property, I pay the taxes on it, I own it, you tell me I can't bring my camper in.
Oh, no, you can absolutely bring your camper
But I gotta
in.
get a permit.
All you have to do is go by and get a permit.
That's ludicrous.
How would you suggest that we govern it? How would you suggest that
So,
somebody
I have
drives?
to have a permit to store my camper on my property that I pay taxes on.
Yes.
Why?
Well, I mean, you have a permit to drive a car which you store in
Well,
there.
why not your golf cart?
Because the golf carts aren't the issue. We don't have an issue with golf carts being stored on property. We have an
Or
issue with
UTVs.
campers.
So why you discriminate against campers?
Because we don't have
What are you
it.
gonna do about all the campers in here now who don't meet this criteria? Are you gonna go out blanket and tell them, hey, you gotta come and get a permit and leave every 17 days?
Well, again, I'm not the enforcer, but what I would suggest we do is let the people know that they have to get a permit to have a camper within the city limits of,
Point blank, you can't enforce this, and it's discrimination.
How do we let them know that there's a permit required?
you've got a sign up
The
front.
sign's broken.
You can, how do we let
website.
people
There's
know,
all kinds
how
of
do we
ways.
let people know that any ordinance is in
And
effect here?
I would assume
We
that-
publish it. That's how we let people know that the ordinances are in effect. Is
Laws
that right?
change all the time.
Yeah.
You know, we're still bound to follow them. So that's not the issue. I mean, the issue is for council to consider what they want, you know, this ordinance to look like and what they want to accomplish with camper trailers here.
Do we want anybody to be able to bring a camper in, leave it on their lot, take off,
It's already
abandon it?
Well, that's the
what
problem
we're
we
trying to-
have.
That's what we're
I
trying to
saw one the
address.
other day with 5 campers on it.
Right.
They
Exactly.
live there all the time.
And now they'll be
This-
in violation of
This
of
ordinance only
ordinance.
allows one camper
per lot.
or
It- it's-
consecutive. even
It
if you own
clarifies all of that.
lots.
That's why we have
Okay.
those suggestions.
And so what are you gonna do about all the campers in here now who don't meet this criteria?
The same thing you would do about any,
And say, hey, you gotta pull that out every 17 days, 'cause
We already
No,
have
no,
an
no, no,
ordinance
no.
that states that. The problem I am hearing is that we have a problem with enforceability of the ordinance the way that it's currently
These are
structured.
existing ordinances.
The end outcome, I think that's being sought is the same. They're looking to restructure the ordinance in a way that actually makes it functionally enforceable.
Well, actually, wasn't this
And it-
ordinance taken out completely for a time?
Well, there's certain districts where, there's some districts where there's never been permanent camping allowed. So that's what this is attempting to solve. You know, what you're essentially saying, I don't think y'all are advocating for permanent camping throughout all of Ivanhoe. Maybe you are, I don't know, but that's what this is aiming for, is to enforce where temporary camping, enforce temporary camping, enforce, the storage, and enforce, just an annual permit as well.
Right. And as far as what you were saying, Will, if you have a camper parked on everybody can have a camper in their yard. If you want to own a camper, it's not for habitation, it's not to live in, but what they're trying to do is, and I would assume the one that's in someone's home would be like an annual permit, that you go in and, and you get a permit once a year for your trailer that's parked in your yard. It's like you get a permit for your boat that's in the water. And it's more than anything, it's trying to control the problem that we have. We have a huge problem with the campers. A lot of them are abandoned. They're in bad shape.
The
And
RV already has a registration and permit to get it on the highway.
there's your permit. If it's not registered to go on the street, then.
if you don't have it defined and clearly stated in the ordinance, it's really, we're trying to get to the point where our ordinances are enforceable.
Sure.
We're not trying to hurt, definitely not trying to hurt anybody. It's trying to clarify things. And of course, people are allowed to have campers in their property. If you have a home, you're allowed to park your camper there. We're not saying that you can't. There are neighborhoods in the country where you can't do that, but that's not what we're trying to. That's not what they're trying to do here in Ivanhoe. And they're trying to do things that are enforceable and reasonable for all of us. I mean, it would be a question of maybe getting a permit once a year if you went to your.
And what are you gonna do about the people who are here now, who don't meet this ordinance?
It's just like everything else in our code enforcement and our ordinances. How do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. And Jackie's doing an amazing job to get our ordinances enforced. And yeah, we can't get out there and do every one overnight, but we're doing the best we can with what we've got, and we're really improving. She's doing an amazing job. Yeah.
She is. I think this is gonna be a big elephant to chew.
Well,
This has been for years one of the challenges that we've looked at and pondered how exactly we're going to go about it, because it is a problem when we have dilapidated, abandoned trailers, and RVs, and how we enforce it is one of the biggest challenges. And so, the fact that we're working to restructure the ordinance in a way that allows us to actually start cleaning some of this stuff up, it brings a lot of hope to me. But we're going to have to be really clear and really understand what we're trying to achieve and the process of how we're going to go after this, because it's like Councilman Warren mentioned, there's lots of folks that are already out of compliance, even though there is an ordinance. So it will take some time to chew through it, but that's what code enforcement and the marshal's office is, and our municipal court is there for. So it's just about agreeing on a set of guidelines that we can go by, and then let our infrastructure do the work for us.
I don't think your infrastructure is big enough to handle this problem.
well, it's not, and we're doing the best we can with what we have.
So why add to their burden?
Huh?
Then if that's the thought process, then why don't you just delete the ordinances, are we concerned about the ordinance that we can't enforce about, where we can camp permanently versus temporarily? I mean, we have an ordinance, we need to respect it, and we need to put something in place to try to enforce it.
I think
Right,
that
the
I think
ordinance and
that's
the
the
intention
goal of
has always
the
been the same.
revision.
Excuse me.
Sorry about that.
No, that was exactly what we were tasked with, make the existing ordinances enforceable.
Either delete the ordinance or try to enforce it.
Exactly.
And the ordinance has been there, and the intention has been there since the beginning. Yes, Ivanhoe, sadly, for years, had nothing governing, no enforcement whatsoever. Yes, it's taking us time, but we have made some incredible advances, and we will make more advances. And how do you clean up Ivanhoe? We have a real problem. We have to address it. And it may be a little bit of inconvenience if you have to come in and get a permit once a year for the mobile or the travel trailer you have in your yard, but it's well worth it in the long run if we can all. It's just like the permits, like I say, for the golf carts and for the boats and everything. It's to maintain our community.
It is the wording and the contents of this ordinance up for discussion at this point in time?
Yes, y'all can discuss the contents and suggest revisions that could then be looked at the second reading.
At the second reading, I think what we have here is the first reading. They have submitted it to us so that we can go over it. We have till our next council meeting to have the second reading, and in the interim, if there are suggested changes, let's go for it. You want to have the P&Z has worked on this a lot, hours and hours and hours. You have no idea how much time they have spent, and Brad has reviewed it and given his approval, because what we want to make sure is that it's legally enforceable. So everything that they have done has already gone through Brad. Now, we can beat the elephant to death, but we can't do it sitting here at a council meeting, because we won't be out of here until tomorrow at least. No, if you want it, and this is my suggestion, and I have no vote, so it doesn't matter. But I would suggest that if you want to adopt the first reading, and then we're going to have our second reading at the next council meeting, and in the interim, if you have suggestions, I would say that get together with Jeff. He's on P&Z, because now we all have it to read.
Jackie, you have something you want to?
I think one thing that you guys may be missing is that I think one thing you guys may be missing is the actual ordinance for District 1 and 2 was deleted approximately a year and a half ago. And it wasn't discovered until I started, probably about a month after I started, I realized that that ordinance no longer was in you guys' ordinances. So everybody wanted to follow the 17-day rule, but the whole ordinance, you guys had voted on it and deleted it out because they said it was unenforceable back when Chuck Marshall was here. And I was told that the intent was that something else was going to be put in its place, but nothing ever got put in its place. So therefore, right now, as it stands, and just, sorry. What is it? As it is, right now, Districts 1 and 2, there's no ordinance that tells how long the camping is, period, besides 6 months if you're building a home.
And it's not in this ordinance either.
How is it not in that ordinance?
It says permits are limited for camping will be issued for a period not to exceed 17 days.
Yes,
For where? For where?
For temporary camping. So the temporary camping zones are District 1 and District 2.
Okay. But it says for limited camping, it doesn't say temporary.
That would be under the definitions, and I believe P&Z was working on that. That was part of defining the wording in definitions. Because I think that before one of them had
Motorhome, travel trailers, pop-up campers, truck-mounted campers, other. Didn't say about which districts it gets a 17 permit. 17 days.
So that's all in a different section of the code.
Yes, I believe it's in 154.116, if I remember correctly. And it tells about either limited or temporary camping, and that section's about District 1 and District 2. Okay, that's talking about. And on 71.12, under permits, under C, it says permits for on-site dwelling purposes during the construction of a home will be issued for an approved camping recreational vehicle for a period of 6 months, commencing on or after the date that the building construction permit is obtained. Let's see. I really believe if you look under 154.116, that's where it actually lists the limited camping or temporary camping, one of the two, and then where it's showing the regions.
Yeah.
Just a question, why do they have to take them out for 5 days?
It's for
If the concern is, black water processing.
The 5 days, I mean, that's all up to discussion. I mean, that's just historically what the number's always been. That's,
How was that number arrived at?
that was way before me, so I was not part of that.
So,
I was probably in high school when that came out,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. That's up to the council to determine what, as far as policy goes, what they want the numbers to look like.
Okay. Are there further questions right now for Jeff or Valerie or Jackie? Okay.
Just one more comment. The biggest thing wasn't the storage of trailers or campers at a property, especially the ones with homes. The biggest problem is that they're wanting, whether they have a home or not, they're wanting to move campers onto a piece of property, and then people living there, staying there all the time. Some of them have septic, some of them don't have septic. So we're having a huge issue with that, because especially the ones that do not have septic hooked up. So you got travel trailer, at least one, sometimes 2, 3, 4, and like you said, you know where some of them that have 5 of them are. I know where a few of them are, it's like that. But there's nothing I can do until something is put in place, especially for districts 1 and 2. If nothing's in place, there's nothing I can do about it. So I gotta have some backbone to go in there and say, hey, you're not allowed to have this there. You're only allowed 1 camper. You have to be either hooked to a septic or taking it out so you're getting the black water taken care of. That kind of thing, because it can't be dumped on the ground, dumped in lakes, all that kind of stuff. So if there's no ordinance, there's nothing I can do about it. And I have multiple files that's what they are, is campers just sitting there, people living in it, multiple campers, people living in it. Some have septic, some don't. People with houses even, moving trailers in and moving family members into the travel trailers, sitting at their house and wanting them to live there year round. So we have to somewhere we have to put something in place so I can at least have something to enforce, because if there's nothing in place, there's nothing I can do.
Well, I'll say this, if you pass this ordinance, you have to go after everyone that's in violation of this ordinance in the city of Ivanhoe. Everyone.
Yes, sir.
You can't pick and choose.
Oh, no.
I don't.
Never have.
If anybody knows me at all, I don't care who it is. I don't care who they're related to, who they know. If they're in violation, they're in violation. And that's the way from day one when I started this job, that was my rule.
And there's a lot of them in violation right now.
And I have a lot of them, but like I said, there's a lot of them that's in violation, but they're in violation with the old ordinance that was in place that got deleted. Once it got deleted, then there was nothing I can do. So until then.
Yeah, they were in violation before it was deleted.
Exactly. So, but I'm at the point where I can't do anything, and that's where we kind of came to a standstill when it came to the travel trailers on a lot of it. Is because once I realized that ordinance was no longer an ordinance, there was nothing I could do about it. That's why I've been trying to fight, I think it's been since November, trying to get something put back in place so I could do something about it. Any other questions?
Do I hear a motion to approve the first reading of this ordinance?
I make that motion.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Against,
Okay. Okay. Finally, Judy. Consider discussion action, Resolution 2022-10R, authorizing application for CDBG GLO mitigation mod grant. CD, for some reason, I don't have in front of me a copy of that resolution. Well, here, Debbie's got it. Like I say, what this is about, it's authorizing the application, the grant application for this $1,933,000. And council has to approve submitting the grant. Judy, could you address us a little bit about process and how that's all going to work? My understanding is we go ahead and we submit the grant, and then there's a public hearing period or for public comment or whatever. Anyway, tell us how this all works.
Yes, ma'am. As the General Land Office identified mitigation funds through Housing and Urban Development, the City of Ivanhoe, through the PB's Texas Council of Governments method of distribution, has been allotted the $1.9 million and change. To be able to get that money, the next step is the city has to apply for it. So you have to turn in an eligible project to the General Land Office for them to approve it.
Is there a time frame for that?
Yes, sir, there is. They have it as a rolling time frame for the COGS, but for Ivanhoe and Debt COG, it's November 16th.
Oh.
You have to have it turned in by November 16th. And so the next step is to put together the application, identify the project. The resolution can be passed this evening for that. And then you have to have it out for public comment for 14 days. So it has to be on your website, has to be on Facebook, and you can also post it here at City Hall. And so for 14 days, it has to be posted, and at the end of the 14 days, it can be submitted to GLO for their consideration for eligibility, and then once they've approved it, then it goes to contract, and the city can move forward on the project. That sounds like that all happens like really fast, but it doesn't, even if the city is very fast, and I applaud you for doing so. GLO usually does take a little while to review the applications, and then they usually come back at least with one request for information, and that process goes on for a little bit usually, and then sometimes it takes them months to put a contract out. I hope they're faster this time, but they weren't in the competition, so we will see.
Right.
what kind of projects are they accepting?
Any mitigation projects. This money has to have a tieback to mitigation for disasters. That's the intent.
Mm-hmm. Skip and Tommy and I and who else? We got together. We got together with the engineers. We were talking about possible projects, and there's actually a map floating around here somewhere. Actually, we all got a copy of this. What we're thinking about is applying for a grant to work on Lakewood. You see this? Yeah, this is the map that. Okay, and like I say, Dawn and Judy were able to talk about it this afternoon and what needed to be done. This first section from Tristan Dam over to Galahad Dam, that section of Lakewood is the first priority. And then the second one would be after Galahad Dam back to Camelot Dam. That's pretty much the entirety of Lakewood. And this is all of the white part, by the way. And then next is if there's still money, which, with the cost of construction right now, it's doubtful. But the next sections would be the main entrance and then from the Texas Water Development Board project up to Chanticleer. And that's why that's all in white. That's the suggested use of that money. We feel that it's a viable, it will be an eligible project that they're going to put together. What we're asking for tonight is to pass this resolution to go ahead and move forward with the grant application. With this in mind. I mean, you know.
Is that road work or is it?
Road work, and it has to include ditch work and drainage, you know, and culvert work, whatever. In order to be eligible for this money, it has to include the drainage, because this is all Harvey money still. But in order to move forward, this is the one thing that Lonnie Hunt, who's the director of DebtCog, has been expressing over and over and over again. DebtCog is the first cog in the state to get their mod approved, this method of distribution. And it's taken a long time to get that done. We're the first ones in the state of Texas in what they said. And so our region are the first ones that can put their applications in. The sooner we get them in, the sooner they'll be processed. If we wait a long time, then all the other cogs are going to get theirs approved, and it's going to be a rush. And so, yes, as far as I'm concerned, and what we've heard over and over from Lonnie Hunt, is get it in as soon as you can, so that you're not at the end of the line, because when you're in the end of the line, it's going to be so much for them to handle.
And so Lakewood was on the original plan to do from as far to the back as possible.
Right.
So from that perspective, it stands to reason that this will be very important to the city to be able to follow through and provide them with the road surface on that section of road that's lost.
Yes, sir, and the other part of that as well is these are HUD funds. HUD requires for these monies for at least 51, that it serve at least 51% low mod. Ivanhoe is 51% low mod. So as long as it's a citywide benefit, then that meets that requirement.
So what we need to do to get this ball rolling.
We need to adopt this resolution,
I make a motion, we adopt that resolution.
giving us permission to move. Huh?
Go ahead. Read it. Go ahead, read it. I'm sorry.
I said, well,
Yeah.
Sir.
I'm going to second the motion.
Okay, a resolution of the City Council of Ivanhoe, Texas, authorizing the submission of a community development block grant, mitigation method of distribution project application to the General Land Office, and authorizing the mayor to act as the city's executive officer and authorized representative in all matters pertaining to the city's participation in the community development and revitalization program. Who came up with this template? It was you, wasn't it?
We provided it to you, but it's ultimately the agency's template.
Yeah, it's a template that they come up with. It's not something that we created. It's something that we got from Langford, and this, we put Ivanhoe in it.
Yes.
So it's a standard resolution. And we
Originally,
need,
it came from GLO.
It did. It came from GLO.
yeah, this is the resolution they require in order for us to submit our application. So I'm asking for a motion to adopt Resolution 2022-10R. Okay, any further questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
So now what?
Now, between
Dawn is
between
working on
Dawn,
numbers. So Dawn is going to solidify the cost estimate and take it as far as she believes the money will allow it to go.
Okay.
and then she gets together with Judy, and they prepare the grant application. And then once that's prepared, and then we put it out 14 days on our website and our Facebook page for people, for public comment. Once that 14-day period is ended, then we can go ahead and submit the grant, right?
Yeah, that is correct.
And so this is authorizing that process to move
Is there any
forward.
guesstimate on how long Dawn might require, how much time she might require?
I can tell you she won't be doing it before Monday. She's doing, there's another application that's out right now.
That's fast, that's good,
Yeah,
that's
well,
adequate.
So
But
I do
she's-
believe she'll have it in the next week or so.
But she's the one that prepared this.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
Awesome.
She just said, please don't ask her for it before Monday because she's got other grant applications
Use her
she's
cell
working
phone
on.
number.
I do, actually.
yeah, they have each other's cell phone
Yes,
numbers.
yes.
And they're great about responding to our calls. And I so appreciate it. You know, I was thrilled to have both Judy and Dawn there today.
Well, appreciate being allowed to be there. The agency they did a decent job on their presentation. It is riveting, though, always riveting.
Yeah, it's 3 hours on the
I understand. I do.
Oh,
The
yeah.
first part was interesting.
Oh, okay. That's good.
The text, or the DEDCOG meeting or the?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I'm assuming that everybody knows this is the 1.933 million.
yeah. Yeah. And so,
Thank you for the clarification.
all right. Any other questions for Judy? Did I already ask for the motion? Did I already?
You did.
Okay. I'm getting really bad. I'm blaming it on too much information.
Yeah.
That took care of 12 as well, didn't it?
Excuse me.
Did we just cover item 12 as well? No, we just voted on it.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, the next one was clarifying the project, and I already talked about it because that's the map. That's what we're talking about. And so,
So do you need a motion?
do we need a motion on that?
The resolution.
The resolution?
The resolution.
We can just tell you what it is that we want in it. Okay.
Okay, so can we move on to, thank you, Judy.
Thank you, ma'am.
For consider for discussion action projects for bond construction funds. We have, I don't have the figure in front of me, $390,000 left in the,
Yeah, we will.
okay, this is another piece of information that I think I've given to you guys before. The $11.5 million grant requires a 1% match, which is basically $100,000. Judy and Jill have informed us that that $100,000 can be taken out of that ARPA money. That $355,000, well, we haven't gotten the second tranche of money, but we should have gotten it by now, but it's imminent. So we've got $150,000 more or less, and we're going to be getting another $155,000. So that match money can be taken out of that amount of money. So we could go ahead and use the grant or the bond funds totally for road work and utilize the other money for match. Which, and it's time that we got that bond money spent. We're not supposed to just keep it there in an account. We're supposed to be doing road work with it. So we have, we went out and got some suggestions, and we're looking at the possibility of level up and overlay on Camelot from where you turn at the first stop sign over to Durwood. Because the problem with Camelot right now and that is that we're losing it. And the longer we let it go without resurfacing that road, we are going to lose it. It gets to the point where there's nothing you can do but redo the whole thing. Right now, it's eligible for level up and overlay. And the other one would be 28th Street in its entirety. And that's something that we've talked about too, either 27th or 28th Street. We're thinking that 28th Street would be the one to do, either 27th or 28th, but the opinion is that we could get both of those done with the money that we have, with the level up and overlay. So what we need to do is go out for bids to get proposals to see how much we can get done with that amount of money. And what we're proposing is doing Camelot and 28th Street. Right?
Right.
Do I hear a motion to that
So,
effect, Tommy?
well, just a second. The 4-inch water line that the fire department needs access to for rapid filling of the pumper trucks is at the end of Friar Tuck. It might make more sense to do 27th. I don't know. I haven't driven 28th. I've driven Friar Tuck and I've driven 27th.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just throwing that out there before we, for food for thought, before we jump on 28th as the final decision.
Do we have any other matches that we have to fulfill? What about
No.
the $8 million?
The $8 million has no match. There is no match for it, thank God. Because
Yeah.
originally we thought we were going to have $2 million match. So we're, thank heavens we get the whole $8 million.
So
We are so blessed.
anyway, I'm just throwing that out there for food for thought.
And David and I have been talking about, working on Friar Tuck and figuring out what we can do with our crew.
Do you have a ripper-upper?
No, I want a grinder upper.
A grinder-upper, that's it.
That line that we looked at for the fire department,
Yes, sir.
is that?
David. The thing is, we have, this is going out to YouTube, so we really need to record everything.
Hello, YouTube.
Smile.
I'm not gonna touch it, it's gonna go off. My question was, you mentioned the 4-inch main for the fire department.
Yes, sir.
Is that at the end of 27th, or is that at the end of Friar Tuck?
It's at that, it's
It
at,
is 27th? Okay. Okay, that was the only question I had, just wanted to make sure we were on the same page.
It is on 27th Street? It's not on Friar Tuck? I thought it was on Friar Tuck.
well, it's at the end where they come together, at that pump station number 5, I believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
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 Well, I don't particularly care myself, 27th, 28th, either one. If 28th would be more, 27th would be more beneficial to the fire department, then let's do that one, because we're gonna eventually do them all with it, or most of
I
them.
was just throwing it out there.
Yeah, well, I think that's a good point. 27th is fine.
Well, it sounds like 27th or 28th, something in that neighborhood, which lines up with the original bond map. The idea there was to make sure that we had a quality thoroughfare for ingress and egress essentially to the ranch, north perimeter of the city there. And so I think that makes good sense, so long as we look at which street makes the most sense, both from the number of residents as well as access for emergency services and any other considerations that we may need, to take. But it sounds like we're going in the right direction.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
I'd like a motion that we use the rest of the bond funds for a project on Camelot South and 27th Street.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Yeah, and included in that motion should be going out for bids for the project.
Well, we need to go after bids on the motion.
Okay,
And I second that too.
all right. That's really going to determine how much we get done.
Yeah.
When we, but we can't do anything until we go out for bids for the work.
Mayor, before we proceed, okay, the topic, that was a topic of conversation with Wayne.
Mhm.
Like the parking lot material versus the
Well,
asphalt.
that's what's gonna happen when we go out for bids. We'll have to go out for bids with both types of material, no? Or just, we could.
David,
Yeah. Either asphalt or it's a mix, it's not just sand oil, it's a different mix.
we can do a lot with money.
So, do we need that included in that motion?
I've included it here.
Okay. Okay, any other questions or discussion?
I would simply urge us to take a look between 27th and 28th Street and make sure that we're making the best choice
I agree.
Yeah.
comprehensively.
I think
If it's-
I think 27th Street is a little longer than 28th Street, isn't it?
Well,
I can't say, but if it's a difference in,
they're about look to be about the same.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying
They're
to,
parallel.
I would just say if we're gonna service, 13 or 14 residents on one street, and say 27th Street has 8 or 9 residents, but it's one block over that the fire department might have to go, we actually talk to the fire department and make a consideration for whether or not that block is worth. I mean, if you've got more houses on another street, is it better to be able to get to the fire easy or get to the water easy? I don't know. But anyways, I just think that we need to assess that one and make sure we're making the best choice
They have
on
a
it.
2-inch line at the firehouse, and then they say that it takes them longer they would love to have a 4-inch line. And come to find out, there was a 4-inch line put in specifically for them. It was just at the end of 27th Street.
Well, maybe we could have that 4-inch line extended over to 28th Street. I don't know. I mean, if it's already there, it shouldn't be too tough to tap into. I don't know. I'm just spitballing. Again,
Well, I was too, so.
Again, my concern is making sure that we service the greatest number of people and the greatest number of needs. And if that means 27th, so be it. I have,
David, did you have a comment?
Just to take under consideration, remember 27th has just had water lines, brand new, down both sides from the very back, all the way to Lakewood.
Good, bad, or indifferent.
Good, bad, or indifferent is just something to take into consideration.
That's true.
What size are those lines? That's what I was thinking.
On both sides.
So they could bring it up to the front, so the trucks wouldn't have to go all the way back there.
Yeah,
Possibility.
that would be.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a question too of just talking to the water company to be able to,
Get that pressures.
yeah.
Well, I will tell you that we did a survey on 27th and 28th a year or so ago. 28th does have the most people living on it. It was about 10 more than 27th.
That makes sense. Thanks, David.
So if we can move the water line,
No,
We could put a fire hydrant in. right
no, I
there.
think David mentioned that because the water line on 27th has already been changed.
Yeah.
The idea is, let's not, pave a street where they're gonna tear up, to replace water lines.
so you're
later.
saying that 27th Street already has new water lines, and we already
On both
used 20.
sides, both sides, yes, sir.
Well,
So,
what is that
so
gonna-
he's saying that 27th is probably the best idea.
Is it going to, well, I was just saying about the ditches, but it wouldn't matter because sooner or later we have to do ditches anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's gotta be figured in with the new construction.
Okay, well, that's my original motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
27.
Yeah, 'cause
are we making a firm decision for which street with this decision?
we have to make a decision about what we want to go out for bids for. We can't say, 27th and 28th.
We can't get bids for both? So that we have the opportunity to assess which one is the best fit for the community?
Well, sure you could.
It's the same length of street. It'll be an assessment as far as what's the condition of this street and what's it take to be able to do it and what's the condition of this one. Which will also tell us, this one might, maybe it's been me the whole time. it may cost $150,000 to do this one, and it may cost $85,000 to do this one because this one doesn't have enough base material in it.
Well, and that's true too. See, we did work on 28th Street a few years back.
Yeah, we did.
So
that
that's
oil
one of the
sand.
reasons, that's what we looked at. And that's the reason that we got the kind of the estimate, and I'm sure it has a lot to do with the fact that there has been recent work done on that street, and so you got some base material there.
Yeah, see, I didn't know the
So
backstory
I
to
hadn't
that.
thought about that, but that's another reason to do 28th Street, because we've got something there already.
I would suggest that we amend the motion to say either 27th or 28th Street, depending on what information materializes.
I concur with that.
Okay.
Would you like to amend your motion?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second it.
I'll amend the motion to show either 27th or 28th, whichever one is the least
I'll second
expensive.
that.
Okay. All right. Do we, any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you, guys. Life is good. Consider for discussion action grant administrator for developing application to Safe Streets for All grant program. This is something that CD spoke to us the other day about, that Safe Streets for All. CD, would you like to kind of address this? And we need to go out for a grant administrator.
We already have the money.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, okay, the city's already published and sent notices out to 6 grant administrators directly, along with being published in the Beaumont Enterprise, and we received 1 response on that, and verified that because we did go directly to grant administrators, and we received responses, but none other than Langford Community Management Services responded in the affirmative that they were willing to provide the administrative service for the SS4A, as we're shortening it down to, for the project. But this is what we were talking about with the improved surface, something either asphalt or cement, or however we want to go about it, along from the entrance, all the way along Lakewood, coming down Camelot to get to the city center, civic hall, community center, whatever you want to call it at this point, and with an offshoot going along Chanticleer and then along Lakewood all the way to the back. That would provide an alternative route for bicyclists, walkers, golf carts, alternative methods of transportation that now are being endangered by being on the same street as traffic traveling 35 or sometimes 50 miles an hour or more that the judges encountered. And that's what the whole purpose of the SS4A is, to alleviate the possibility of deaths or severe injury. And y'all know, we have a bunch of folks that like to go out with their golf cart. And if we can move them off of the street onto their own paved area, now this will entail us working with Sam Houston Electric Cooperative, because it will be along their right-of-way easement that they've got in a lot of those sections. And so that's where our grant administrator is going to work with us to give us direction, and so that we can proceed towards. And this is kind of a hurry-up sort of deal, because we have to get our application in by September the 15th. So we have a month and a half.
So we can actually approve our grant administrator.
I make that recommendation of Langford Community Management Services.
I make a motion that we adopt Langford as the grant administrator for the SS4A program.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
How much money are we talking about?
Okay, this is your city administrator's rough estimate for the action plan that will be required, because we can't immediately jump off into doing a project. We have to have an action plan in place in order to access implementation funds. For the action plan preparation, which includes our discussion with Sam Houston Electric Cooperative, if there's poles that will need to be moved or whatever, we'll need to include that in the implementation cost. But for the plan itself, I'm guessing somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe $2 million. And the project itself could run, depending on if we have cement or some other product for the top, it could be $4.5 million. That's about 4 miles, 4.5 miles for the total distance coming to the community center as well as going to the back.
All right. You can't win the lottery if you don't buy a ticket. So,
Thanks, CD.
Did we have a second?
yeah.
You made the motion. You made the motion.
I made the motion.
Okay, any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Consider for discussion and action budget amendments, and this includes the addition of the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funds, the second tranche. Now, can we can't do it because the money has not arrived yet, so we'll have to do a budget amendment when the money is deposited.
Just get postponed. Or
I make a motion we postpone this item.
Second?
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, consider discussion and action use of American Rescue Plan Act ARPA funds. And maybe Judy, you could help us with this and let us know what we can utilize these funds for. Langford is our grant administrator on these funds too.
So the ARPA funds, when they first came out, were somewhat restrictive, but with the final rule, because you're under $10 million of receipt of funds, it's pretty wide open now. When it first came out, pretty much water and sewer was kind of the things they wanted to see, but you could do work here on the city hall. You can do streets, you can do drainage, you can do pretty much, because you're under 10 million, it's pretty wide. I mean, we'd like to make sure what you're thinking about before you leap off and do it, because, just in case, but
Street work is viable.
street work is viable, yes, sir.
But this gives them an opportunity to utilize it in other.
It does.
Yeah, because you don't get very far with a couple $100,000 worth of.
we could build a conference room.
You could update the interior. It is of the city hall. It's certainly eligible.
Yeah, that's why I say, so we'd have basically 200,000 left. You're not going to do a lot of road work with $200,000. But you could do some other things that we.
How much is the ARPA money?
It's right around
350, but then there's grant administration costs. And so I'm not sure what the grant administration costs are. I don't remember.
Frequently we charge somewhere between 6 and 10%. We actually, on this one, it was less than that. And honestly, I'm sorry, I don't remember off the top of my head. But it's between 300 and 325 on the amount that you have to spend.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, yeah, I wanted Judy to clarify what we could utilize it for, and that's something that we can address, or start thinking about what we would like to do with that money. The second trench obviously has not arrived yet, and we do, we will want to spend $100,000 if everybody's in agreement with that for our match money for the GLO project, which sounds like a sensible thing to do.
I agree. That whole project will be paid for with grant funds. I think that's pretty awesome for the city. So I believe y'all received your money last year in August. Isn't that right, CD?
I thought it was July, wasn't it?
Okay.
This month, that's why it's on the agenda.
Gotcha. You're not the only one. You're a little slow in getting the second tranche out. So just so that you know, you're not the only one that hasn't received theirs yet.
Okay. Thank you, Judy, for that clarification, and I think this one needs to be postponed also because we have not received the additional funds, but I think it's something that all of us should be thinking about, come up with suggestions. Okay. Consider for discussion order of general election for November 8th, 2022. We have an election coming up, and we have to approve the order for the general election. Do I hear a motion to that effect?
I just want to make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any questions about that? All in favor?
Aye.
Mayor, before you proceed on, I'm going to submit this, and y'all can sign at the bottom of the second page, and just send it on around each of the council persons will need to sign. Well, I've got everybody here.
Can I move on?
Yes.
Okay. Number 18, consider a discussion action implementing hotel motel short-term rental tax. We had talked about this some time back. I did some research, and I don't have it in front of me, but Will, I assume you have done research on that.
I've done some research, yes, and we got into comprehensive plan, and we're looking for funding for the city. Since then, it came up that we have a lot of Airbnbs here in the community. So I thought, maybe we can tap into that. But there is that money that you charge, I think you can tax up to 7% on an Airbnb. But that money has to be used for tourism,
Right.
whether it be a convention center, a visitor center, something that brings tourists into our city. And so there was where we come into a stumbling block with that, is how much we're going to get from the Airbnb and how much is it going to support something like that. And then, of course, being a private community,
Yeah, do we want it?
do we want it?
Well,
So I
yeah.
thought I'd bring it to council, maybe they'd have suggestions or
The other thing you are aware that this is not something that the state comptroller collects. If we implement this tax, we collect it.
we collect.
Yeah, it's the city's collected. It's not so we would have to build the Airbnbs I'm not sure exactly how that all works, but yes, we'd have to do the collecting.
So how do big cities do it then? When I stay at a hotel somewhere, there's the city tax on the bill.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah,
hotels are businesses that, do taxes and whatnot. Airbnbs are typically private owners that, don't.
Should be paying taxes on it.
Well, they don't necessarily pay
I
the
know.
tax on them, so.
Yeah, there's
And is there going to be enough payback to make it worth the effort?
Exactly.
That's
We'd have to look at how many of these we actually have in operation and what it would actually cost us to collect.
I'm not going to do that. You can.
oh no, it's Will.
I know we have probably maybe ballpark 5.
At least.
At least 5. And from what I know, it's been maybe 2 of them's been rented in the last month. Ballpark.
Doesn't sound like a massive source of revenues for
No.
tourism.
No.
And the revenue is going to be for summer months only.
No, you'd be surprised.
Snowbirds.
Yeah, we've had snowbirds rent in the wintertime, and they're thrilled with the weather. We get cold, they don't. But
I will say, Will, that it was asked the P and Z to look into that, and it wasn't feasible. So,
It was what?
it wasn't feasible,
Was
you know.
not?
No. if we didn't have enough to, and then like you say, having to collect the taxes and do all that other stuff, it's, you know. Right.
Yeah, there's not enough revenue coming from them to support anything.
Yeah.
Just by way of comparison, well, first it's the owner's responsibility to pay, but obviously the city would have to make sure people are paying. The way Woodville does have a 7% tax, which is the max, and they collect it on a quarterly basis.
Yeah, and who knows what they're doing with Airbnbs, but they've got motels.
Right.
in
Like Airbnb, the company itself takes out the state occupancy tax itself, doesn't leave it up to the owners to do.
Right.
If it goes through like an Airbnb. But,
Right.
So I don't know, the Airbnb themselves I don't know how they would handle local taxes, I don't know.
Right. Yeah, that's a little bit tough, But anyway, thank you for putting that on the agenda. I think it maybe at this point we're not ready for that. Consider discussion action changing city secretary payroll from monthly to biweekly. It would make it more convenient for our payroll. I mean, is that the reason?
Again, thank you, Mayor and Council. Okay, yes, I'm the Lone Ranger when it comes to once a month for payroll, and our new accounting service, Davis Heineman and Company, highly recommends that. As a matter of fact, they might drop us on payroll if they don't have everybody consistent. So that's where this comes from. Now, it won't take effect until the new budget year goes into effect, but they won't, because we're in the process, and I'll have a little bit more report on that in a minute, but because we're moving that direction, they want to go ahead and get things started that way. But yeah, that's the driving force, is that it's consistent across the employee base.
Do you need a motion?
Yes, because
I make a motion that we adopt the city secretary's payroll, and convert it from monthly to bi-weekly.
Any further questions or discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? All right, consider discussion financial report. You just thought you got to sit down. And by the way, at this point, I'd like to advise council that you have a copy of our certified values that was sent out by I had put, it was under the mayor's report and I failed to make note of that. But we all got a copy of the certified values that was sent out by David Luther. And I spoke to Lynette Cruz, who's our tax assessor collector, and asked her if she had any ballpark idea when she would be getting us the figures as far as our no new revenue tax rate. But she's overwhelmed at this point and really couldn't give me a specific date. But she said she'd get it to us as soon as she could.
just to add a little to that, no, it's me, Skip, because I'm reflecting from the speaker here. Okay, and I feel for Lynette and her crew there at the office, because you think, okay, city and the county, well, you also have the emergency services districts that are in here, the school districts, then the special district up in Commonwealth. So altogether, I think she's dealing with 17 or 18 different entities. So she will get us. And
it's only like a 17-page
a
formula.
17-page document that she has to fill out just for us. Because of the de minimis rate and all these other calculations that have been brought into the equation now. David Luther, I feel for him. I did want to say, Judy, thank you for being a part of the meeting tonight. Thank you so much. It's nice to have a face that council and other folks can see for the folks that help us get so much in grant money. Thank you. Okay, here we go. Skip, are we ready? Okay. The financial documents, including the bank and text class statements, were sent to council earlier in the month. Last week, the accountant's financial reports and last week, rather, the accountant financial reports and reconciliation details on each of our accounts were emailed out to the council. Now, our other items to report for the month of June, because even though we're here at the end of July, we haven't reached the end of the month to report on it. So the state comptroller direct deposited $6,753.04 on 7/11/22 for our sales and use taxes collected in May. That was reported to the comptroller in June. That amount is 5.54% more than we got in June last year, which was $6,398 and a few cents. Sales tax collection year-to-date is above last year, $67,600 compared to $65,427, and you'll see that in that kind of breakdown spreadsheet that that I gave to council as a handout. We are seeing the results of losing Hancock's Barbecue, but we should see the impact of the new restaurant that has taken its place as we reach the end of the year, especially with our summer business. I have been remiss in recognizing some of our other not-so-visible businesses in the city who contribute to the sales tax income for the tip, and I tip my hat to Emily, who has a dog grooming business, and also West Austin's organization, the business there. They do contribute from sales taxes, and I want to tip my hat to them. Ad valorem taxes were received on 7/12 for our June collections. $11,137.87 went in the general fund. $2,375.48 went in the INS fund. That works out to a collection rate of 86.56% for the year. At the end of June, our total ad valorem collections for fiscal year 2022 are $646,943.71. That total is based on payments for both current and delinquent taxes, and it combines general M&O as well as the INS. Maintenance and operations, interest, and sinking. For comparison with June 2021, that was $13,737 that went into general last year, so it was more work was collected last year than in June of this year. $2,835, almost $836 for the INS deposits. The June 2021 collection rate was at 87.82%. Now, pledged securities at Citizen State Bank total $166,837, combined with the $250,000 in FDIC insurance. All of our funds at Citizen State Bank are protected with a little over $360,000 cushion. Now, TML's Intergovernmental Risk Pool has sent notice that most members, and that includes the City of Ivanhoe, will be contributing more in this upcoming fiscal year. The risk pool has calculated the increase will be about 10.8% for Ivanhoe. That works out to about $2,300 based on our contribution of last year, $22,502. And there was another handout that I included for the council. You'll see that with the TML emblem, risk pool emblem on it. We have transitioned from Andrew Business Solution to Davis Heineman and Company to handle our payroll. In the next 2 weeks, Kyle Heineman is going to be paying us a visit to get the city set up for QuickBooks Desktop. However, we'll not do the transition over to accounting and reporting until the new fiscal year starts. While Mr. Heineman is here, we're going to work on getting a budget reporting system set up that's more user-friendly, and that'll be working with the mayor as we proceed along that line, getting ready for fiscal year 2023. The interest and sinking bond repayment of $103,487.50 is scheduled to be made in mid-August. As you see in the text class interest and sinking account, we have over $111,000 in there, so we're in good shape for that payment. Now, the loss of Calvary Baptist Church for their weekly rentals of the Civic Hall is noticeable for the revenue offset that went towards utilities. Our electric bill for the past month of the Civic Hall and city offices came in at $431. So we've lost that offset. As of this afternoon, the second outlay of funds for the coronavirus relief, otherwise known as ARPA funding, has not been deposited in our text class account for that. The second tranche of funds will equal the first, $177,910, and that's where that number of 355 whatever it is,
yeah.
came in. Okay, we're expecting those funds to show up any day, and as Judy mentioned, I can breathe a little easier that, well, we haven't got it yet, but it's coming. Texas sales tax holidays coming up next weekend, August the 5th through the 7th, for clothing, footwear, school supplies, and backpacks. Individual items must be less than $100. The sales holiday will save shoppers about $8 on every $100 that they spend. That's sales tax. It does not include any sale offered by the merchant. And quick note, not quite financial, but candidate filing for a place on the ballot is open through August the 22nd. There are 2 council seats and the mayor's seat that'll be in the November 8th election. So there you have my treasurer's report outside of those financial documents that I sent to you earlier. I included the copies of the budget that the accountant had sent out. Again, that first bunch of numbers, column of numbers, is for the June expenditures or income that we had, and then those last columns are for our year-to-date, and I highlighted those so it makes a little more sense for you rather than looking at a bunch of numbers. You'll be all right. Okay.
Boy, take a breath.
Yeah, this is going kind of long.
I make a motion that we accept the June financial report.
Do I hear a
A
second?
second.
Any questions? Don't go away. All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, at this point, I would like to address the budget question because it deals with our finances. John, I know I hear your frustration. And I'll tell you, my frustration is probably even greater because I really do not understand the reports that we've been getting.
Right.
I mean, I can't make heads nor tails, and I'm supposed to be in charge of it. It's scary. So the good thing is that we are having the gentleman come in from Davis Heinemann, and they're going to sit down with us and figure out how we can have clear reports done next year with a different program and everything, and I think we'll be able to get, some understanding. I keep going back to the original budget that we passed last year. It was really kind of simple, and as we grow and as we get more money, it gets more complicated. I look at the budgets that we passed in the beginning, and it was so simple, this little, and now we're getting complicated, and that's what happens when we grow. Bear with us, and we're going to be talking. I mean, I have to hit the ground running, with the budget right now because it's, we're getting to the final deadline. We have to have our budget or our tax rate and everything approved by the end of September. So, we're going to be working on that diligently. So I will be getting together with each of the departments, including code enforcement, of course, and we'll talk about budget. Okay. Thank you, John. I appreciate you. I appreciate you voicing your frustration because you're not the only one that has it. Okay. Is there any update on the Ontiveros legal proceeding?
Nothing substantial to go into executive session regarding.
It's the same thing that we've been.
We're pretty much
Okay.
at the same stage.
Anything about our property acquisition?
We're working on it. We'll hopefully have something squared away within the next few weeks.
Okay, super. Okay, communications from the audience. Is anything come up? No? Okay. Council comments? Nobody has any comments? I really appreciate everybody. That's about the only comment I can make, and I join CD in thanking Judy for being here. And if nothing else, I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 8:05 p.m. Wasn't too bad.